Have you ever wondered why some women seem completely invested in a man while others slowly drift away, even when they say all the right things? Most men believe love is measured by compliments, affection, or hearing the words, I love you. But female psychology tells a far more fascinating story. In reality, the deepest signs of love are often silent. They hide in behaviors that most men overlook every single day. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many men lose the woman who truly loved them not because she stopped caring, but because they never recognized what her actions actually meant. Most men never realize this. A woman in love doesn't always express her emotions the way men expect. She rarely announces how deeply she's attached. Instead, her subconscious begins revealing it through subtle behaviors that can't easily be faked. These behaviors aren't learned from dating advice or social media. They come from powerful emotional instincts rooted deep inside human psychology. That's exactly what today's video is about. We're going to uncover 7 things women do only when they love you madly. Not when they're interested, not when they're attracted, but when they've reached a level of emotional investment that changes how they think, feel, and behave around you. Some of these signs will surprise you. Others may completely change the way you look at your past relationships, and one of them, almost no man notices until it's too late. Pay close attention because this changes everything. One of the biggest mistakes men make is assuming women love the same way they do. Men often focus on solving problems, expressing loyalty through actions, or providing security. Women certainly appreciate those qualities, but their emotional world operates differently. Love influences how they communicate, how they worry, how they remember tiny details, and even how they react when nothing seems to be happening at all. Imagine this. A woman suddenly asks more questions about your future than ever before. She remembers something you casually mentioned 3 months ago. She notices when your mood changes before you've spoken a single word. At first glance, these seem like ordinary moments, but they're not. Behind each behavior is an invisible psychological process that reveals just how emotionally connected she has become. The fascinating part is that these signals often appear long before she openly admits how deeply she feels. In many cases, they're even stronger than saying, I love you. Actions generated by genuine emotional attachment are incredibly difficult to fake over time. But here's where it gets interesting. Not every caring behavior means she's madly in love. Some women are naturally kind. Some are simply emotionally intelligent. Others are polite because they're interested but not deeply attached. Knowing the difference is what separates men who understand female psychology from those who spend years confused by mixed signals. Throughout this video, you'll discover exactly where that line exists. You'll learn why one behavior that many men interpret as controlling is actually one of the strongest signs of emotional commitment. You'll discover why another behavior that seems insignificant is often the clearest indicator that she's already imagining a future with you. And the final sign, it completely changes how you'll interpret a woman's actions forever. Because once you understand this last psychological pattern, you'll begin noticing it everywhere in happy couples, long term marriages, and even relationships that eventually fell apart because one partner ignored it. What happens next may surprise you. The very first sign isn't flowers, affection, or constant compliments. It's something much quieter, something far more powerful. And once you understand why women do it, you'll never look at love the same way again. Let's begin with the first hidden sign. The first sign that a woman loves you deeply isn't flashy. It doesn't come with dramatic declarations or grand romantic gestures. In fact, many men mistake it for simple curiosity. But psychologically, it's much more than that. Sign 1. She begins investing in your future, not just your present. When a woman is merely attracted to you, she enjoys the moment. She wants exciting dates, fun conversations, and emotional chemistry. But when that attraction transforms into profound love, something changes inside her mind. She unconsciously begins including you in her future. Most men never realize this. A woman who loves you stops asking questions just to make conversation. Instead, she asks because she's mentally building a picture of the life the two of you could share. She'll ask about your long-term goals. She'll wonder where you'd like to live one day. She'll ask what kind of retirement you imagine, what your family traditions are, or how you handle difficult situations. At first, these questions may seem random, but here's where it gets interesting. She's not collecting information. She's searching for emotional compatibility. Imagine you're driving together and she casually asks, "Have you ever thought about moving somewhere quieter?" It sounds like an innocent question, but beneath the surface, her subconscious is asking something much deeper. Could I imagine spending my future beside this man? That's an entirely different conversation. When love grows, a woman's brain naturally shifts from evaluating attraction to evaluating permanence. This is why she'll suddenly become interested in areas of your life she never asked about before. She wants to understand not only who you are today, but who you'll become years from now. Pay close attention because this changes everything. A woman doesn't emotionally invest in someone's future unless she's already emotionally invested in the person, and that's what makes this behavior so powerful. Now let's move to the second sign, one that many men accidentally destroy because they misunderstand it. Sign 2, she slowly lowers the walls. She built around her heart. Every person carries emotional defenses, past disappointments, broken trust, old heartbreaks. Women are no different. In fact, many women become experts at hiding vulnerability because they've learned that exposing it too early can lead to pain. So when a woman truly loves you, something remarkable happens. She begins removing those emotional walls, not all at once, slowly, carefully, and often without realizing she's doing it. She starts sharing stories she's never told anyone else. She admits fears she usually keeps hidden. She reveals embarrassing memories. She lets you see moments when she's uncertain, emotional, or imperfect. What happens next may surprise you. Many men interpret this vulnerability as weakness. Some even pull away because they think she's becoming too emotional. But psychology suggests the opposite. Vulnerability is one of the highest forms of trust. A woman rarely exposes the parts of herself she's worked hardest to protect unless she genuinely believes you're emotionally safe. Think about the difference. Anyone can laugh with you. Anyone can flirt. Anyone can enjoy a good evening. But very few people willingly hand someone access to their deepest insecurities. When she does, she's offering something far more valuable than attraction. She's offering trust. And without trust, lasting love cannot exist. But don't confuse vulnerability with dependency. A woman who loves you isn't asking you to fix every problem. She's inviting you into parts of her world that very few people ever get to see. That's a privilege, not an obligation. And if you recognize it, your relationship often becomes dramatically stronger. But if you ignore it, or worse, dismiss it, those walls can quietly rise again. And once they do, rebuilding that level of emotional safety becomes incredibly difficult. So far, we've uncovered two signs that reveal genuine emotional investment, but the next one goes even deeper. Because it involves something women often do without saying a single word, and once you notice it, you'll start recognizing it in almost every truly loving relationship. That hidden behavior is where female psychology becomes truly fascinating. By now, you've probably realized something important. Deep love isn't usually loud. It doesn't always announce itself through dramatic romance or constant words of affirmation. More often, it reveals itself through consistent behaviors that quietly communicate, "You matter to me," and the next three signs are some of the clearest examples of that. Sign 3. She notices the little things that everyone else misses. Most men never realize this. A woman who loves you deeply begins paying attention to details that even you may forget about yourself. She remembers how you take your coffee. She notices when your smile seems forced. She can tell something is bothering you simply by the way you answer a text or the tone of your voice. To an outsider, these observations might seem insignificant, but psychologically, they're anything but. When someone becomes emotionally important, our brain naturally gives more attention to information connected to that person. It's why people in strong relationships often remember tiny conversations from months or even years earlier. Imagine mentioning, almost as an afterthought, that you have an important meeting on Thursday. You forget about the conversation. Thursday arrives, and before your meeting begins, your phone lights up. Good luck today. I know you've got this. You never reminded her. She simply remembered. That isn't coincidence, it's emotional investment. A woman who truly loves you doesn't just hear your words, she stores them, because to her, your life becomes part of her emotional world. Sign 4. She tries to protect the relationship instead of winning every argument. Here's where many men make a serious mistake. They assume that disagreements mean love is fading, but every healthy relationship experiences conflict. The real question isn't whether arguments happen, it's how she responds after they do. A woman who isn't emotionally invested often focuses on being right. A woman who deeply loves you focuses on protecting the connection. That doesn't mean she'll agree with everything you say. Far from it. She'll still challenge you. She'll still express her opinions. She'll still expect respect. But underneath the disagreement is one powerful motivation. I don't want us to lose each other over this. Pay close attention because this changes everything. After an argument, does she eventually reach out? Does she try to understand your perspective? Does she look for solutions instead of collecting victories? If so, that's a strong indication that preserving the relationship matters more to her than protecting her ego. Real love isn't the absence of conflict, it's choosing the relationship over the desire to win. And that mindset only appears when emotional attachment runs deep. Sign 5. Your success feels like her success. What happens next may surprise you. One of the strongest indicators of genuine love is something psychologists often call shared emotional identity. In simple terms, your victories begin feeling personal to her. When you achieve something meaningful, she doesn't compete with you, she celebrates you. Whether it's a promotion, reaching a fitness goal, starting a business, or overcoming a personal challenge, her excitement feels authentic. She tells her friends. She encourages you before the big moment. She believes in your abilities, sometimes even before you believe in yourself. Think about that for a second. Anyone can stand beside you when life is easy, but someone who genuinely loves you takes pride in watching you grow. She isn't threatened by your ambition, she becomes one of your biggest supporters. That's because love shifts the mindset from me versus you to us together. Your dreams become part of her emotional investment. Your progress becomes something she celebrates rather than fears. But here's the fascinating part. Not every woman expresses love through encouragement alone. Some express it through a behavior that many men completely misunderstand. In fact, countless relationships suffer because men interpret this next sign as control, when, in reality, it often comes from a place of deep emotional attachment. And once you understand why she does it, you'll never look at those moments the same way again. The sixth sign may be the most misunderstood behavior in female psychology, and it's coming up next. Sign 6. She fights for the relationship. Even when it's difficult by now, a pattern should be becoming clear. The strongest signs of love aren't about perfection, they're about commitment. Anyone can be affectionate when everything is going well. Anyone can be charming during the honeymoon phase, when emotions are high and every conversation feels exciting. But real love reveals itself when life becomes complicated, and that's where the sixth sign appears. Sign 6. She chooses to work through problems instead of walking away. Most men never realize this. A woman who truly loves you doesn't expect a perfect relationship. She knows disagreements, misunderstandings, and stressful seasons are inevitable. What separates deep love from temporary attraction is her willingness to protect what you've built together. Think about a couple facing financial stress, family pressure, or a difficult period where both partners are overwhelmed. In those moments, attraction alone isn't enough to keep two people together. Love is. A woman who loves you deeply doesn't automatically assume every problem is a reason to leave. Instead, she asks herself a different question. How can we get through this together? Notice the wording. Not, how do I fix you? Not, how do I win? But how do we overcome this? That single shift from me to we is one of the strongest psychological indicators of long-term emotional attachment. But here's where it gets interesting. Many men misinterpret this behavior. Sometimes a woman who loves you will challenge you. She'll point out habits that are hurting the relationship. She may ask for more communication, more honesty, or more consistency. At first, it can feel like criticism, but ask yourself this: is she trying to control you? Or is she trying to protect what the two of you have? There's a huge difference. Someone who doesn't care usually becomes emotionally distant. They stop investing energy because they've already checked out. Someone who still believes in the relationship continues trying to improve it. That effort is often a sign of hope, not rejection. Pay close attention because this changes everything. Of course, this doesn't mean every disagreement is proof of love. Healthy love always includes mutual respect. Constant manipulation, disrespect, or emotional games should never be excused as "she just cares." Real love encourages growth. It doesn't demand control. It creates emotional safety. It doesn't create fear. That's an important distinction many people overlook. Imagine you've made a mistake. Maybe you forgot an important date, became distant because of work, or handled an argument poorly. A woman who's only casually interested may slowly withdraw without much discussion, but a woman who truly loves you is more likely to say, "This hurt me, but I want us to figure it out." Those words carry enormous meaning. She isn't ignoring the problem, she's choosing the relationship over the easy exit. And that choice requires emotional courage, because fighting for a relationship means risking disappointment. It means believing the connection is valuable enough to save. Unfortunately, many men only recognize that level of commitment after it's gone. They mistake consistency for obligation. They mistake concern for criticism. They mistake effort for pressure. By the time they realize those behaviors were expressions of love, the opportunity to appreciate them has already passed. What happens next may surprise you. The final sign isn't something every woman shows. In fact, it's so rare that when you experience it, you'll understand why psychologists consider it one of the strongest indicators of profound emotional attachment. It's the behavior that quietly connects every sign we've discussed so far. And once you recognize it, you'll understand the true difference between someone who simply enjoys being with you and someone who genuinely cannot imagine building a meaningful life without you. That final revelation changes everything. Sign 7. She makes you part of her identity and what that really means. We've explored 6 powerful behaviors that reveal genuine emotional investment, but the final sign brings them all together. It's the one behavior that quietly sits beneath every other sign. And once you understand it, you'll never look at love the same way again. Sign 7. She begins to see your happiness, your pain, and your future as part of her own. Most men never realize this. The deepest stage of love isn't just about passion. It isn't even about commitment alone. It's about emotional integration. In psychology, strong, long-term bonds often develop to the point where two people begin thinking in terms of we instead of me. Their lives remain separate, but emotionally, they become deeply connected. This is why a woman who truly loves you naturally starts including you in decisions that once affected only her. She doesn't do it because she has to. She does it because, in her mind, you're no longer just someone she's dating. You're someone whose opinions, feelings, and well-being genuinely matter. Imagine she receives exciting news. Who does she want to tell first? Imagine she's had a difficult day. Who does she feel safest talking to? Imagine she's making an important life decision. Whose perspective does she genuinely value? If the answer is consistently you, that's one of the strongest indicators that you've become an emotional anchor in her life. But here's where it gets interesting. Many men think this level of love happens by accident. It doesn't. It grows through trust, through consistency, through emotional safety, through keeping your word, through being the kind of man whose actions match his promises, because no woman can love deeply while constantly questioning whether you're reliable. Deep love requires emotional security, and emotional security is built, not demanded. The biggest mistake men make now that you've seen these seven signs, there's one mistake you should avoid at all costs. Don't start treating this like a checklist. No woman expresses love in exactly the same way. Some are naturally expressive, others are quiet. Some show love through words, others show it through loyalty, support, acts of service, or simply being present when life gets difficult. That's why context matters. It's never about one isolated behavior. It's about the overall pattern. Ask yourself, does she consistently invest in the relationship? Does she remember the small things? Does she celebrate your victories? Does she fight for the relationship instead of against you? Does she trust you with the parts of herself that few people ever see? If the answer is yes to most of those questions, you're likely experiencing something far more valuable than temporary attraction. You're experiencing genuine emotional love. A final thought. Real love isn't loud every day. It doesn't always look like movie scenes, expensive gifts, or dramatic speeches. More often, it appears in ordinary moments. A text asking if you got home safely, a smile when you succeed, a conversation about your future, a willingness to stay when life becomes difficult. Those quiet moments are often the strongest proof of deep emotional connection. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this. The right woman doesn't just admire the man you are today, she believes in the man you're becoming. When she loves you deeply, she doesn't simply stand beside your journey, she becomes part of it. So the next time you're wondering how a woman truly feels, don't focus only on what she says. Watch what she consistently does, because actions, repeated over time, reveal emotions that words alone never can. If you enjoyed this video and learned something valuable, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more videos on female psychology, relationships, and self-improvement, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. And now we want to hear from you. Which of these seven signs have you experienced in your own relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else better understand the difference between attraction and genuine love. Until next time, remember, the strongest relationships aren't built by finding someone perfect, they're built by recognizing, appreciating, and protecting genuine love when it quietly shows up.